Hi, everyone, and welcome to another 4D Method 4D user group meeting. Today is July 3rd, 2024. This is meeting number 72. So in this meeting today on our agenda, we're just gonna review again a little quick description of the 4D Method user group, talk a little bit about upcoming presentations. We'll talk to Kirk Brooks about the weekly happy hour that happens each week, where everybody can get together and chat and talk shop a little bit. We'll get some news from 4D with Jim Sobchak. I'll review some of the recent 4D blog highlights, 4D blog articles. And then we have a section called Of Note in the Knowledge Base. So some recent tech notes that have come out that are always a wealth of information. And then we'll get our special topic. Thomas Schlumberger is going to show off his 4D info report component. My name is Brent Raymond. I organize the 4D Method 4D user group. The website can be found at 4dmethod.com, and I can be reached at 4dmethod@gmail.com. And I've been doing 4D development for a good part of my career, and going back to the 90s in a variety of industries, and currently work at the Art Institute of Chicago, a museum where they use 4D to manage their art collection. And always like to see what everyone else is doing out there with 4D in the world. So I started this 4D Method 4D user group to bring together the community of developers and users of 4D applications everywhere, and share new programming techniques. Just basically, it's always fun to see what where 4D is deployed out in the world. And it's a great place to find 4D development support and learn just about new things that what people are doing with 4D. Get great ideas for how to expand your use of the platform. This is your 4D support community, whether you're a developer, a user, or business owner. It's a great place to come to find talent and to show off your own talent. For all of the people connecting from the United States, tomorrow is the 4th of July, our Independence Day. So happy 4th to everybody. I know we'll be celebrating here in my little neck of the woods, and I hope you have a safe holiday of your own. I invite all of you to be a presenter yourself for the group. Again, this is your group. This is a great platform to just show off what you're doing and what 4D is doing for your businesses. We have a couple of very interesting presentations coming up on August 14th. We have Bruno Raymakers joining us again with a presentation called Full Database Structure Insight Through the Lens of a Single Method. You'll be very interested to see how much functionality and how much interface he was able to pack into a single method, and just to analyze your database structure and solve quandaries, answer questions. Then on October 2nd, we have James Scott and Jeff Kane joining us with a presentation called Automating 4D Deployments Using GitLab CI/CD Pipelines. That's continuous development, continuous integration, continuous development, hot topic of late. So it'll be real interesting to see what their best practices are over at Sweetwater. I'm sure there'll be some great tips. We have an open date on November 20th. That is reserved for you. If you've got something that you've been holding back to show everybody, or waiting for an invitation, well, this is an invitation for you to get on the calendar and just it doesn't have to be a long demo or anything, but just show us some of the cool stuff that you're working on. All of our upcoming schedule and previous presentations can be seen at 4dmethod.com/schedule on the website. Or you can also just record a demo for us to link to on 4DMethod. You don't have to do it live. It's always a little scary to show off some of these applications and programming, go through your code live and on a recorded channel. So anyways, I'm going to hand it over now to Kirk Brooks, who organizes the 4D Happy Hour that meets every week.
Thank you, Brent, and thank you for allowing me a little time here to once more invite folks to stop in at 4D Happy Hour. We've been going strong now for, I can now say over 4 years. 4D is 40 years, but for over 4 years, just about every week, every Friday afternoon, 3:30 Pacific time. There is a Zoom meeting for 4D developers and enthusiasts, and basically anybody interested in the platform and interested in talking about what we do with 4D, what you can do with 4D. Pardon me. And geez.
I hear you.
It is a little dry here in San Francisco today. Anyway, we talk about all things 4D really, from the really simple, easy stuff to just sometimes delving into deep, nerdy engineering kind of sessions of trying to figure out either a particular issue or the best way to do something, or just talking about new things. A couple of weeks ago, we just played with the new Singleton implementation in the beta 4DR5, which personally I thought was really pretty good. It was that day was the first day that I actually just tried any of them, and I was impressed. I can see a lot of things to do with that. Good job to 4D for pulling that one off. That was just really nice. Last week we were dealing with an optimization question, a question about what is the most efficient way to deal with a table where you have 6-7 million rows of records and you need to be doing optimized searches on them rapidly. Came up with some interesting findings and some good ideas and some good solutions. All that is just, and that's just what we do. And so I really encourage anyone who'd like to stop by. There's our Zoom link. You can also find that link at 4dhappyhour.com. And don't be shy. It's a very welcoming group. There's always a pretty good diversity of experience and backgrounds, which is one of the things that's really great too. If you've spent a lot of time working on a project just solo yourself, there can be a lot of things that you just don't realize you could do with 4D simply because you've never had to gotten outside your own thought process. There's a lot of things new. A lot of the old things in 4D are new again, and what does it want me to? No, I'm not speaking French. Just and just talking to other folks, you get a chance to just see the way people are using sometimes old things in new ways, ways to benefit from using Orta. So the invitation's there. I really encourage you to try to make it by and say hello. And Brett, back to you.
Thanks, Kirk. Yeah, it's a great place to sort of kick the tires on some of the new features, and like Kirk said, you'd be surprised how differently everybody codes. I always feel like everybody's code is a bit of a fingerprint for them. The style can be so unique, and yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it's a great opportunity to have a casual hangout with other developers. So thanks again, Kirk. Just kicking over now to Jim to talk a little bit, mention some of the current news from 4D themselves.
Great. Thank you, Brent. And yeah, I agree with you what you're saying about happy hour. The couple I've been to, I haven't been to enough of them, but the ones I have been to are really fun. It's very casual, like Kirk was saying, and just feel like it's a group of developers sitting around and talking about 4D. So I do encourage that you attend if you can. So yeah, so thank you, Brent. We really appreciate the time that you afford 4D in these meetings, myself and Ad. It's really important to us to keep up with what's happening in the developer community, of course. So we'd like to hear feedback in these meetings. And meeting number 72, man, congratulations. Hard to believe it's been that many meetings. You kind of mark time and they go by fast, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. And we're really looking forward to Thomas Schlumberger's presentation today on Info Report. For those of you who haven't used it, this will be really interesting. Here at 4D, we use it extensively in our technical support cases and on professional services projects. Super informative tool, and Thomas has been supporting it for years. There's always new updates. It seems all the time. With every new version of 4D, there's an update to the info report component. So this should be really interesting. Looking forward to that. Here at 4D, some quick marketing news. The webinar for 4D20 R5, the one that Ad and Will Taylor present with every new feature release, will be a week from tomorrow, Thursday, July 18th at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So hopefully you can attend. There's a bit of a new format. Ad may talk about that, but if he doesn't, there's a new format on the webinars. We'll be doing more live demos than usual. So this one should be really, really interesting. 4D20R5 is really an amazing feature release for us. In days past, this would be more like almost like a new version of 4D. There's so many new features in this. It's truly amazing. And the release date is very soon. I can't tell you the particular date, but it's very soon. So I think we released the beta in April, and we're expecting to put the actual production release of 4D20 R5 out soon. So hopefully you can all attend the webinar next week. Other marketing news, if you've been checking your email from our marketing team, they've been really busy lately. We're now offering another round of 4D20 free conversion reports. And we're getting a tremendous response from customers, developers about those free reports. If you haven't had one, they're really interesting. You just kind of take your application and we take a look at it and the structure file and tell you what may need to be done to get to version 20. We don't do it for you. Some people think that we're offering a free conversion to 4D20, but we're not. It's just a report on your application, what you need to do to get to 4D20. So if you have any questions about what that report's all about, feel free to contact your account manager for that. Other marketing news, we are highlighting some of the Summit masterclasses right now. You probably received an email about that with a short video that our marketing team put together. Right now, we're highlighting the two sessions that Keisuke did at the Summit, one on system workers and the other on applications building. So this is kind of a series of highlights from the Summit that we'll be doing. We'll focusing on other classes and other people who presented at the Summit, but these two are pretty interesting about Keisuke's presentation. So hopefully you'll see that video and take a look at his Summit sessions. And I think I mentioned this in every 4DMethod meeting, but the on-demand training in the store is just exploding right now. If you're looking for any type of training, from beginner training, like getting started with 4D, to switching to project mode from binary mode, that's in there in the on-demand training in the store. There's intermediate classes and advanced classes. So all the Summit sessions are in there. We also have trainings from JPR in there that are always interesting and informative. And soon we'll have a new JPR training in the on-demand training store, Codely Studio for 4D. He's already presented this, but this is a recording of what he presented, and it's available to people there. And then my last point is the 4D19. We are ending sales and support of 4D19 on July 12th. So it's been exactly 3 years since 4D19 was released. It was released on July 12th, 2021. So we're kind of holding strictly to our 3-year cycle of feature releases, not feature releases, of LTS releases, excuse me. And so, yeah, so you have a week or so left of sales and support for 4D19. There will be a version 19.8 that will end up that cycle on 4D19. Don't have a release date, but it will be soon as well. Okay, so I think that's it for me. I just wanted to wish everyone a happy and safe 4th of July. I know for many of you in the US anyway, you're probably cooking. For those of you not cooking, like, I mean, literally like boiling hot in parts of Arizona and Florida. I have a brother who's in Tucson. It's 109 there today. And other parts of the country are super hot. So hopefully you'll be able to stay someplace cool and have a safe and happy 4th of July weekend. That's it for me, Brent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, we have had some heat waves, haven't we?
Yeah.
Good to stay away from all of that. The I won't go through the whole list here just because I'm holding back a cold myself, but I was a little overexcited that R5 was already released. I think it's coming soon. But it's not quite there yet. But it's definitely some great things with the new package manager, the try catch, the full try and try blocks. The quick network layer going, getting a little bit more fleshed out. Restricted entity selections, which is very useful when especially when working with the 4D REST server and elsewhere. The singletons and just every one of these R releases, they really pack in some great features. So I'm excited to use them myself, and be looking forward to a handful of these things. Especially, I think the quick network layer is going to be a real big deal. Then we've also got a few articles to highlight from the 4D blog, which can be found at blog.4d.com. There's a nice article talking about the new component manager feature called Simplifying Component Management in 4D. For any of you who are like me at the museum, we have I got into making components at one point in time, and we have I think 15 different components for core libraries, and they all have varying dependencies on each other. So this will be pretty neat to figure out how to manage that matrix of components with the new component manager.
Oh, and Brent, may I just interject here? This component manager also gives us a new feature. You notice in the screenshot you got here, 4D SVG has been overloaded or is overloading. Yeah. Now, if you want to update a built-in 4D component like 4D's SVG or the 4D progress indicator or even the quick report editor, 4D report, you want to modify those, you can download the source code from 4D's GitHub site, make the changes, But then once you compile and build that new component, you have to replace the existing one inside the 4D application. You have to go into the native components folder and replace it with yours. With this new component manager feature, you don't have to do that.
That's
You can
nice.
put your modified 4D SVG or your modified 4D quick report or your modified 4D progress or even 4D netkit or the label writer. You can write your own, put it into your project folder, components folder, somewhere in there, and it'll automatically overwrite what's built into the 4D application. That's a great feature. That's brand new that we haven't had before. So in addition to your own component management, this will let you override 4D's components also.
That's very useful. Well, thanks for interjecting with that, Tim. Yeah, so it's not just a way to manage it. It's you know, for navigating or controlling the hierarchy of components that you're using and which version actually gets used by your application. This component manager will really help to clarify which one is being used and how the dependencies are shaking out. Another interesting article, explore GitHub code spaces, possibilities with 4D. Code space is a container accessible directly from GitHub or remotely through VS Code or the Code Spaces application where effectively you're able to virtually using a VS Code and a kind of a virtual machine update your project code. It's pretty neat. So you can effectively edit your project directly on GitHub without you know, cloning it down and all that kind of thing. You know, you have a specific branch that you are working in when you're using these code spaces. That's just by configuration, but yeah, it's very interesting how project mode has allowed these kind of integrations with GitHub and VS Code. And then an article about the deprecation of the legacy network layer. That this is the network layer that probably has 30 or more years of development, the original network layer for 4D client server. And they are finally moving on. There's ServerNet now, but then also the more modern approach that's coming through development with the quick network layer. So any of you that are dependent or field dependent on the legacy network layer, it's time to move on to the new layers. There are advantages as well that are outlined in the blog article for using the more modern network layers. But yeah, so that's some of the recent activity on the 4D blog. And now I'm going to hand it over to Ad to highlight a couple of recent tech notes that were released in the knowledge base.
Thanks, Brent. Hi, guys. So just to add on to what Jim and Brent mentioned about the webinar, just a little different format, because in the past we realized that some of the demos could be better demonstrated live. So that's will be the new focus and the new format for us. We'll try to do live demonstration. Not going to be everything, but we'll choose the one that makes sense the most, you know, because sometimes it's easier to kind of show the transition from A to B to a live demo. So that's, you know, something you can look forward to. Hopefully all of you can join us. Anyway, for this time around, I picked two tech notes from actually the latest two tech notes that we have on the knowledge base. Now, the top one is the one that we released in May. This is the Thomas Mall Tech Note about two-factor authentication plus time-based one-time password. For those of you who really worry about security and try to ramp up your security in terms of who will be able to use the application, this tech note might be something that you want to look at because it does a combination of layers of security. We all know what two-factor authentication is. The TOTP, this is something that, starting to become sort of a norm now, especially you'll see it out there in the real world too. And I'm using one of the apps when I go to the gym, and then it does generate a QR code that seems to be different every time when I go there. It's sort of the similar idea of how it behaves with this particular implementation as well. So have a look. There's a lot of explanation in there as well as an example that comes with it. You should be able to follow and hopefully be able to implement into your own application very quickly. The next tech note, this comes from one of our senior technical staff, Tai Bui. So over the years, we've all known users and group that you need to make sure that when you deploy a new version from your development to a production, then there must be a way to be able to maintain the users and groups that has been modified on the production side. In the past, we usually rely on the two commands, which is the blob to users, users to blobs. With the project mode now, the reality is the actual file is actually sitting outside of the application. It's on the disk. And those two commands actually does nothing in the project mode. So we have to come up with a new way to handle that. We use a similar concept that most people will do, which is during the deployment of the new application, we'll detect if there is a file that has been saved on a particular location on the disk, which is that can be done within the on exit of the application or on shutdown the server. During the startup, it will detect to see if there's any file that mismatch with the timestamp and additional information. If it does, reload it and then restart the application and go from there. So yeah, again, with the project mode, and there's the differences between a single file versus multiple files and folders. There must be a different way to handle some of the same thing that we have done in the past. It may look a little different, but in terms of the functionality, everything should continue to work and give you the same result. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the tech notes, and we'll be keeping an eye on the traffic on the knowledge base, which I've done consistently in the past several years. Again, just want to reiterate, this is the benefit as part of your partner program. Most of you, if not all, are a partner, and these are something that we produce and try to give you as much information and try to educate you with some of the new features and technology from 4D. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Brent. That's all from me.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, that two-factor authentication, I mean, it feels like just a matter of time before I think we'll all be implementing that one way or another. So it's nice to have a modern example from Thomas Mall as to how to do that for us all to start from. There was a question for Ed from Terrell Bowser. Is it correct that there's no 2404 tech note yet? At least can't find it in the knowledge base.
2404?
Yeah. You might be able to handle that offline.
Yeah, well, we'll take a look at that. I remember that at the beginning of the year, there was a tech note that we published, and it just happened that it just created a misleading information. That's why we have to pull it back. So but we try not to reuse the same number to avoid any confusion. So yeah, the 2404 will be skipped. So you'll see it's from 03 and then jump to 05. But we're trying to make up from the missing tech node at the later month. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Ad. Right. So moving on along, just wanted to start by saying, 10 years ago, our own Ed Hammond presented on the 4D info report component to another user group called the Midwest 4D and Wakanda user group. That user group was to become the 4DMethod user group, and that was our 5th meeting. As we mentioned earlier, we're on 72 now. So there's this says a little bit of how long we've been using this component and how much we've relied on it over the years. But today it won't be Ed doing the presentation. It'll be the author of the component, Thomas Schlumberger. Thomas first joined 4D in July in 1997. That's
long ago.
Yeah. First in the QA department, then in international tech support, and finally as a technical account manager. Before that, his education was in graphic arts, and afterwards he self-taught. He taught himself programming, starting with Apple II Basic and 6502 assembly language, and then worked before 4D with Apple resellers and another software publisher who made Code Warrior and distributing Code
Who
Warrior.
distributed, yes.
Yeah, distributed Code Warrior. And if anybody from back in the day remembers Code Warrior as a way, kind of an early way to write code for a variety of different platforms with the same code. But yeah, today he's gonna show us a little bit about his 4D info report component, and some tips and tricks from the current component, and talk a little bit about what's around the corner. So thank you for joining us.
Hello everyone. So I will start just by so I will share my screen if you don't mind, and start just few slides about just a reminder of what is 4D info report. I know that most of you already know this
Looks like
component, but it's just a reminder.
We're still not seeing your slides quite yet.
You don't see my slide?
Not quite yet. You might have to share it one more time.
Okay. Is it share now?
No.
Oh. Okay, now?
There we go.
You see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So,
there we go.
So these are really reminders about the component. So I will just go through these slides before the demo. So yes, as you reminded Brent, there was a presentation almost 10 years ago by Ed, and it was, in my opinion, I was not aware of this presentation at the time, but I only found it useful and with a good example the purge component from Mayako and the use of this component. So I would like to thank him for the presentation. Yes, so this has been already said by Brent. So I was at 4D, arrived in July 1997. I'll just hide the list of people. Yes, okay. So this is a dear story from the origin of the component. So at first there was no component, so I had to create at least 2 large methods to get basic results for creating reports that you had to add to existing structure files. This was not convenient at all. And then starting with 2007, the component were introduced in V11, and this was a nice way to be able to provide compiled code to customers to get a report from the database. And since then, the component have been regularly updated, not really these last months, because the current version in Tau is still from late March. And for multiple reasons, the new update have been delayed, and will most probably be available when V20R5 goes public, most probably next week. So on next week, you will have the new version available. Just a reminder, the version 3 was presented by Thomas Moll during a pre-class at the summit in Boston. And there was some private kitchen with a few of you I can see connected to this presentation. So we ask you to create reports in advance before the meeting, so we could analyze with an engineer what was the behavior of your server and what could be the issue. So here is a permanent link which was already existing in the presentation 10 years ago. I don't know for how long this link will remain persistent, because Tau is now in read-only mode, and it's not really convenient to use a deprecated support website. So this might be changed. I have no exact idea when. This was the component was demoed during a summit session in Europe. We were able to connect remotely to a web server, 4D server that was deployed on an Amazon Web Service somewhere in the US, and we could launch a load testing programming that increased the activity of the server and create real-time update of the graphic with the list box and the graph corresponding to it, so you could see in mostly real time, every 5 or 7 seconds, how the server was increasing its activity. There was another session about, I name it 4DER because it's much shorter. I hope you agree with this internal naming. It was presented during the summit in Portland. Normally every update is announced through the partner worldwide section of the new forum, which is available to all partners. So you have to log in to access it. The current version that was announced is still the V4 71. And the next update would be the V80. So if there is no new delay in V20R5, it should be there next week. So the current demo will be done with my current beta of V80, but the talk link and the announcement will be there when I can identify the public release of the 20R5 inside it. So the link is reminded there. I don't know if you need to have it in the chat, but normally everyone should find it, and it's reminded in every announcement of update in the forum. So just because there is now for a moment silicon computers on Mac, the build of the components needs to have the silicon code or not. So my naming convention is in the name of the archive is to put just a single I for Intel, so no silicon code inside. And for Mac Silicon, there is both the Intel and the silicon code included in the version of the component, and of course it's notarized, so you can deploy it without issue. The last number, because there is either V18, V19, 20, etc. The last name is the last number. It corresponds to the version of the component. Compatibility. So currently there is no build of the component using a minimal 20R something version. The code is still currently based on V20 LTS code, so it's fully compatible with any later version. I just kept, at the time there was a V19R6 that was introduced. There was a change in the internal way to build silicon code by 4D. So up to 19R5, use the V19 version, and if you are using the V19R6 or R7 or R8, you need to use at least on Mac, you need to use the specific V19R6 build. Yes, I remind also the end of support of V19, which is pretty soon. But I tend to keep updates of version even if they are no more supported, so you have time to prepare, for example, your conversion. Regarding the compatibility, even for the current version V4 71, it works on macOS Sequoia, which is pretty recent and only available for Apple developers. There is a little issue regarding the version of macOS reported, but it works, and it will be fixed anyway by V480. And it works down to macOS Big Sur. For Windows, all the versions are supported. Of course, you will get a warning if you still use Windows Server 2012 R2, which is no more supported. And regarding the processors, there is no yet Mac with M4, but probably maybe at the end of the year. And already in the V480 anticipate this processor in a future Mac. Regarding the compatibility, for me, it's really important to be able to process all the reports. So, because when you need to compare, for example, what was the evolution of your application while it was in V18 or V19 or V20 and R2, etc. It's important to be able to compare and process these old reports. And they can, from the start, be created either in English or in French, because this was the two legacy language that were supported at 4D. So whatever the language of the report, you can pass it with the component. It will identify that the report is created in French or in English, and it will detect what is the format and adapt to the earlier format to be able to proceed old reports. Just a reminder about what I recommend about 4D Info report. I know it's boring to read the documentation, but really from time to time, it's not that long. It's less than 30 pages, I think. Not sure. So it's with pictures and it explained quite a lot. And normally it's currently it's regularly updated for each new version. You have the historical method plus what's new in latest update, so you can directly access to it. And I try, and it's time consuming to update every screen capture of the interface with every new version of the component. So because the component has been in Tau since 2012, I just counted, because we have the only advantage of using Tau is that we keep track of every download of each archive. And I counted this morning the number of latest download. So it doesn't count what you downloaded in previous version. There was almost 700 downloads, so that's quite a lot. Also, I will open the host template, which is really a basic interpreted database with some example of method that you can use if you need to deploy or test the new parts of the component. And as always, please, because there is no access to earlier version, so please keep a copy of your download version of the component. So in case there is a new issue, you can reverse to the stable version of the component. Do you have any question at this stage about what was reminded?
Nothing quite yet. It's just always nice to see the component in action, which I'm sure is coming.
Okay, so I will quit the. I will quit the PowerPoint. Okay. Trying just to close down it. Yes, about the component itself. So I've put here, you can open a shortcut. So I'm using now the public version of v20.4. And here is the host database. So what is inside the host database? There is a list of methods with sometime suggested name, sometime a required name, because in the component itself, I will test the first time if the host database exists or not. For example, attention reported. So I'll check if there is this host method in your database, and if there is this exact name, and it must be, I will then, every time there is a new content in the attention, send the content file, the content text to your host attention reported method. So from there, you can decide how to handle, maybe compare with the previous ones, and decide maybe to send a warning or to create a log if there is a change. So you can really get a feedback when there is an attention with a new content. If there is no new content, for example, just the same attention list, the same description, you won't get a new content there. It's only when it changes.
And this is when you're analyzing reports, or when an attention item is actually encountered when you're producing reports.
This is when you create a new report through the store procedure, for example. And I do a certain list of tests and create inside the report, there is an attention section.
Right.
And in this attention section, there is both what I consider information. What is convenient for our customers is that the name are the same in French and English. So there are informations and attentions. Attentions require more attention than just information like the version of 4D or the version of your OS, etc. So if there is a new content which is different from the previous raised attention, if I've detected that executing AA4D underscore M underscore host underscore attention underscore reported doesn't raise an error, I think is 10,518, something like this, minus. In this case, it means that you have implemented this host method. Then I send you the new content, and you just receive the new content in your host database and proceed it the way you want. I didn't want to set an example, but you get the plain text of the attention section.
Cool. So it's like a callback for whenever.
Yes. That's it. That's it. Yes.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
that's not much used because it might, for example, if you have a shrinking available memory, in each report, the value will change. So the content of the attention will change. And for every change of such kind, you will, of course, receive the attention section because it's slightly changed. So, but if, for example, there is a new window appearing on the server which is not identified, so you just have a window number, that might be interesting to know. So maybe you can just decide to store the different attention because in the folder reports, only the last attention is kept in a separate file. And otherwise, all the previous attention are each included in each report. So it's not really convenient to follow. So this one is not well known. This one is old and it just you can decide which rand of users will access some sensitive method. So it's an old code. So I send some information about current user, local IP, current machine, current machine owner. And from there, you can set your own condition saying, okay, you allows the use of this share method or you don't. If you don't, you just send a fails. And in this case, you reject the authorization to use the method because the user profile of the one who wants to create who wants to use the share method is not allowed. It's just a kind of security. It's quite basic, but you can set your own ruling, for example, regarding the IP. If you reject non-local IP or whatever, you can just say, okay, I don't want someone who connects as the standard users to be able to run start or stop the store procedure or whatever. So for this, you just have to implement this method with this exact name. Of course, it will need to be shared. If the host database methods are not shared, they can't be used by the component itself, okay?
Now that these the callbacks are definitely interesting. I've already learned something new about the callback for attention items, but some people some people who are watching this believe it or not may have never even seen the basic statistics graph, and I was wondering if we could just take a quick peek at that so that we could
Yes, I will show this, of course. I just want to explain what is not usually shown. That's why I just insist about what is available in the current template, so which is normally not used. So it's not a big piece of code, and just check the example. Not everything is modernized, but normally now they are using var, and there is one interprocess code which avoid to retest every time if the component is loaded, but you can change that, of course. So, of course, the template is not provided with the component loaded. You just as explained, you have to load the component itself to test it. But if you compile, there is no error because there is always a testing if the component is there, and I use the execute method. So using execute method, there is no tokenization of the share method. So if the component is not there, it will work anyway. So that's a recommended way to implement exchange with the component. So the day you decide to remove it for any reason, you don't break your code. That's valuable also for other kind of components. Okay? I will close this one. So here is the version provided soon, which is now a beta. So the first time you create a report, it takes some time because I'm using, for example, a VB script to try to get more detail than what is available, for example, through get application info or get system info. And of course, I identify if there is a public version or not. And I remind here what is the version used. So you could see that it's still a beta. And there is no much change. Here I'm using really just a Surface book, and which is not new, not compatible with Windows 11. So it's really a basic one, just to not try to cheat on the speed of the component. What you can do from there, this part have been really improved. So within this folder. Here in this case, it's easy because of course you have the naming, but you can really easily test. This one was not a specific version. But this one was a hotfix. So when you build when you set your own building of Mac and OS server built application, it's sometimes really convenient just to have a small code to double check if you're using nightly builds or identified version of the component. And it works the same if you are on a Mac. You can easily, because you don't have access, of course, to the get info section. And it also works for built application, even old ones, for example, this one. This one is really an old one, but if you have more recent one. So here you have the version, so we know exactly if it matches. Yes, so you have both your own versioning and when it's compatible, the build of the 40 that you use for the runtime, even on very old one, maybe. I didn't test all. Okay, this one, for example, you have the version exact. It's hotfix 1. You have the date and the pass. It's optional to have the pass. It really depends on the way you call the method. If you don't pass pointers to these two text content, it will be just displayed. So usually in your code, you just so what was changed is the way I pass installers, because they can be huge now. I don't have an installer of a third of one of your built application, so but it should work the same. Okay, this was about the version. Now, what is important if you have a large, so usually you get, so I'll show maybe first a real connection to a server, so hopefully it works. So this is our bug tracker named Bugbase, which have been there for long. Hopefully it will answer. It's using one of the server of our office. Doesn't looks great. I have no idea what's going on.
So you're trying to connect to get to pull reports?
Yes, yes, it should work. It works a few hours earlier. It doesn't seem to have launched. Let's see. Here it is. Okay. I don't know why it's in the background. So maybe I have to quit. Force quit. Task. For any reason, it looks like it was running in the background. Okay. So, well, you're not supposed to see what is fixed, what is going to be fixed, and everything. What I just wanted to share is the way the component has been implemented. So here we just implemented, depending of the profile of the user. I do have this access. There was just what we call the dialog for the export. From there, you can really get everything going on the server. So you can display the last report. So it will ask the server to find the last report and send back the content, and I display it, and I can of course save it locally. So you can see it's running v20r5. So this is the most easy. From here, you can select which criteria you want to apply to get the report from the server. By default, it's always yesterday and today's report, which is quite convenient. So usually you go to get in compare dialog. So from there, I send a request to the component on the server, and he send me a compress blob with all the array content. And from there, if I double click, I ask again the server to provide the content of the corresponding report. If I click the graph, so I just put the content of the list box list in a graph. From there, I can decide if I display the attention. So the attention is the thick pink polygon, and I can see the content. Maybe you see better this way, and of course, if you select a report on the right, the attention is on the left, and the contrary, if this is the case. If you just click there, you hide the attention level. And if you click another time, you just have a light pink polygon. When you pass, you have the current values. You can decide the way. So there is a lot of settings which are really better explained in the documentation, because I don't have a question mark helping find which button. Here it's about the thickness of the polygon. Here it's about the height of the graph. You can have a graph with a full vertical side or a small size, everything adapt in this case. You can have variation in the display of the value. So here the thick numbers, and of course you can't have a double scale for the users and the process. For this, you need to put a variation from there. Here it's a L for logarithmic, even if I start it at 0. Here you hide the left value if you just want to focus on the memory and cache. And here you return to default when there is small label. So you have a double scale. So it's easier to understand. One blue for the users, and one comment for both the user, the count process, and the number of tasks. If you fly over the name of the label, you get a specific highlight of the corresponding values. For example, maybe I should hide this. If you want to see the cache, if I go there, you have the light green value, which remain the same in this case, and the highlight of the use of the cache. Here it's the same regarding the number of process, and here the number of users, and the same for the RAM. So what else can I show?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, yes, of course.
Okay, the attention. You click the attention button up at the top, and when you did that, you showed some information somewhere.
Yes, because it's so you see here it's dark, it's thick.
Yes.
And if I go over,
yes,
in fact, yes.
Now in this screen, what is the attention you're trying to say? Hey, pay attention to this. What is the problem you're trying to expose here? Is it the backup settings are not checked? Is that what the attention is, or?
But in this example, it's not really interesting. I just wanted to show the connection to real servers. As you can see, there is no variation in this case of the attention. So it's really just information about the DOS and if it's on the virtual machine. Here, this was requested to me to pay an attention if both checkbox are not checked, and reminded for security reason, you allows the server with HTTP ports and information about layer, and I set an attention each time there is a log recording, so you're aware of it.
What I'm trying to understand is I've used this info component before, but I've just used the information that's provided by it, and I wasn't aware that you could add other things to have it check on and report back to you. That's what this attention is about, right? It's saying, I would like to know this something about a database. The component doesn't provide a way to get this information, but I want to get it. So I write some kind of a method and use this attention system you're showing. And then you can include my own information that I care about in with all the information that the info component is already providing. Is that what this feature is?
Yes, this is something you can do here. So I just have remind the attention section.
This attention is completely optional. You don't have to do any of this attention stuff. But if you want, you can add this information. The attention section is user specific. Each user decides, this is what I want to have in my attention section, if I even want one. Is that right?
Okay. So you would like to deactivate the standard attention and put your own ones. That's what I understand. Yes.
Well,
I didn't know there were standard attentions and customized ones, but okay.
There's default things that are included in the attention, such as how long the machine has been running without restart.
Yes.
I've seen that
so
one.
These are new attentions. So not in this example because we are taking attention of to restart regularly the computer and the server, and there is regular update of the server, by the way. So we don't have this kind of setting. But for example, yes, if you don't restart your server for I don't remember exactly, I think it's like 25 or 26 days, for example, a milliseconds just get another throw, and it goes to a negative value because it's assigned long int. And so if you are using without wrapper milliseconds, of course you can get failed values if you are counting of milliseconds to delay process or to measure events, etc. So here, yes, I will show example of reports where you have much more interesting attention content. From here, from the graph, so I will return to the food size. If you double click, again, you get the attention, the corresponding report. And since I think this before 60, you can directly get the attention there. So if there is an attention section with at least one attention, you have this new button there, and you can directly show the attention section corresponding to the graph. Another thing which is convenient, from the keyboard I will do it. This is the way the scale of the information, and you can either use the two buttons, so it reverses back to really a small font and increase. And if I quit, this will be remain for later usage as long as I don't quit. This is part of a method which allows to display the attention, the preferences. I'll try to show this. In the resource, you have what we call some settings inside this file. Oh, that's stupid. I can use input text.
And just for anybody who's still somewhat unfamiliar with the component, you don't have to write any callbacks. You don't have to do any special attention. This is more advanced use of the component. You can pretty well just drop it into your application components folder and with very little effort, have it log these reports for you. It starts a process. It just writes the report, say, every 5 minutes. And so you can very easily track, say, the memory usage of your application, the free memory on the machine, how many users are accessing your application, all of those kind of things. And those kind of metrics can be very useful for anyone who's not just sitting and watching their server admin window all day long, like I'm sure none of us do.
Okay, so this file is just a small setting files, and that will get more preferences. So you can default on a new database the name of the folder reports. Of course, there is a way to select a particular one, but here you can decide to rename it, and we will apply this name if we need to create a new folder report. Don't add a bomb. This is true, and depending of the platforms, normally you can avoid using. You can just use a line feed for end of each line, which gain 1 character for each line of the report. So you just close this, and next time. So there is, in fact, the preferences are stored inside the local, your local. So if I go there, sure. Maybe have the entry underneath here. So preferences. So these preferences are stored there. So they are local to each computers, and the setting, for example, regarding the graph, will be shared by all the database you are checking. So in this case here, you can change also the preferences, etc., etc. So even if you are using the component for another database, everything will be used on your roaming. And I create a folder named 4D_info_reports pref, where I store all these scripts and the preference and parts for the graph, which are used in the display of the graph. So this is just a share method, which is convenient if you want to locate where this folder is created. Now I will just pass. So I will just start from the custom mode, and we will see how we can pass external reports. So if by default you have the current path of the folder report, so if you click there, you can validate, and because the component was just installed, there is only 2 reports. But of course, if you want to select another one, you just have to choose, and we'll go to the desktop presentation. For example, I select this one. Problem is there are plenty of reports, not that much, but you see there is at least 2018. So it's not convenient to pass the report because the first time, the time spent by the OS is really opening the text files, and the parser is not really slow, but of course it takes time. So in this case, what I recommend yes, you see that it didn't complete the parsing. So in this case, what I suggest is to use an import. This is in fact the blob containing the value of the list boxes that I saved this morning. So if you import a blob created with the arrays values, it's just immediate. And the advantage is that in this blob, I store the current location of the folder of reports. So in fact, he recognized that the path is still valid, and he's able to open. So for later processing of reports, I really suggest for large number of reports to create a blob. How do you do this? You just click export, and you say okay, and in fact, you let by default compare blob, and it will create the blob with the exact path there, and the values of each arrays which are there. So it's much faster to open it another time. So that's one of the tricks to open a large folder. And of course, if you go to the folder itself, if you see that you have a lot of reports to analyze, of course, you just check the main values from one, and you don't need to open everything. So, by the way, this is a graph with a lot of users by the Swiss German customer, and you can see that he's using. At the time, it was for the railways in Switzerland, and he was able to go to a very large number of users, even with a very old version of 4D. I think it was a v16.2 64. And for this customer, in fact, I provided a very light version of the component, because connecting these hundreds of users the sync of the component folder was taking too much time. So in fact, for this customer, at this time, I just created a recorder. So it's VL for light. And later, no one else asked me to just have a version light with just a recorder. So for this customer, he wasn't able to see the result through the 4D remote. But you can see that with the current version, and it was pretty fast. And with many tables, I think the database was pretty large. Just the index was 4 GB and the database itself. Current data was this 17 GB, but it works. So here I explain how to use the export blob. Now, sometime to reduce. Closing. Sorry, I'm logged with inability, so I will close it from there. Close window. Okay. So here you have already attentions. Not much at this time. There was a dump. So sometimes you have a dump. In this case, it was an empty dump. But when you have a dump which is detected, it's better to just remove it, because if your application crash again and you don't use the proc dump, the dump will be next to the executable, and it will be lost through the new dump. So when you have a dump, it's better to detect it and remove it. And here you have the warning about the non-restarting of the computer. And again, if you want to see, the cache was rather low, and the RAM used your attention. The RAM was rather low. If you see, when you pass, if you see a red vertical line, it just means that there is at least one attention. If you see a regular blue line, it means that there is no attention. So sometimes it's convenient. What I want to show also is the preferences about the graphics. So in fact, I will also close this one. So here, from the compare dialog, you have access to the pref graphs. And from there, you can decide which polygons are displayed by default. If you want to also see the virtual memory or just the frame memory. If you want to see full polygon by default or light polygon about the attention level. And what was introduced recently is a way to have a gradient, and you can decide to have a dark. If you save it and open again a graph, so everything is more convenient for Mac because you have the dark mode. But here you have everything in dark, and everything is inverted. So the text is white. The colors are mostly the same, but the larger density to see it. And again, you can buy it. Here it's a full dark. You restore with a default white background, and you decide to have a certain level of gray. And the attention, of course, will be the same. So people use the dark mode in Mac appreciate this change on large screen. So this is just saved in the preferences, and of course you can apply a different value without changing your pref. You just say okay, and the next graph here will use the current setting without changing the preferences. Another important part of the export, which is also convenient, is the ability to export in Excel format with the XML. So here, you locate where you want to export, for example, in the desktop. And you have an export file which is compatible with Excel. We will just check this. I think it was on the desktop. Yes, I think this one. So you just open Excel. And we'll drop the file. So just by building some tags in the XML, you get a fully compatible Excel file where you can get the header on top, scroll, and get the exact values that were in the list box. Also, there is an added column, which is the number of seconds. So if you have, for example, a graph model, you can use a graph model to have a, I don't know, historical graph or whatever on Excel. And it's compatible really with all version of Excel. So to share the values, sometimes more convenient to use a standard application format. What else I want to show?
Now you mentioned that the component itself is being currently rebuilt using newer versions of 4D, or is that, did I misunderstand that?
Currently, I don't want to add too much version. There is already plenty of version in the archive section of the article in Tao that I keep just in case someone needs it. But currently, I build everything with v20.4. And the code is really fully compatible with every version of v20 or something. So yes, I don't use new features, but for what I need, I don't really need them in my ARM coding. But it's fully compatible. For example, if you want to I think I have some archive. This one is just for information. It's our internal version. So the internal version does have a naming. I'm not really supposed to show this, but it will be the next V20R7. So if I launch it, and I hope it does launch, it should. So this one will be the next beta when this one will be the next R version when the R6 beta is available. So this is the version where we set all the fix. This is the installer, so stupid. SADS. So this version is, for me, I already identify it as the next R7, so because it's already there.
So what do you think is the most valuable statistic that the info report component gives you?
I think it's really the settings. For example, if I return to this. Okay, for example, I'm not sure how I may be there. I think I've changed. Yes, I think this one for example. So here is a graph. Is I should have open. So in this case, for example, we can clearly see that there is a memory leak. If you pay attention to these two polygons, the user and the virtual memory, in one day, one single day, you can see that there is something going on at 2 p.m. and there is a large increase of the memory and another one there. So really monitoring memory leaks, it's something which is important. Also, if there is I thought I had something about it. I thought I had kept a graph of a saturated cache. So in this case, you have the green polygon about the cache size, and you see that dark green is really challenging each time the current size of the cache, and in this case, not in this graph, sorry, you have really a cache setting which is way too low because you are spending the server is spending time to try to flush to liberate some space because all the data is accessed through the cache. But I don't have I thought I kept a graphic about it, but I don't. If you remember, there is a tech note quite recent about the use of the component. I didn't mention it here. take notes, tips and support keys. So in this take note, I think it's from February. You have example of graph with a saturated case, etc., etc. So this exact link, this one, I'll put it in the chat.
All right.
I don't know why it's so slow, but sorry. Just another point. Sometimes you don't know what is going on, and there is a tip also in the component when you create a new store procedure. So this is done through the manage dialog. You can decide to start, and you see my screen still?
Yes.
Yes. And here, in fact, there is a value. And if you put another value than the default 0, included in the reports are the list of the running process and their state. So sometimes you have a specific process causing a specific issue. You can see if it was inside the, I think it's there, include list process. So for example, in this case, if you pass a value, you have a new section there where you see what is going on. So you can limit the number of running process, but include them in the report, and this is convenient. And regarding the early question from Tim, you can also include your own comment inside the report, just as one of the parameters when creating reports is to pass a pointer to a text variable, and you fill your own content and include it in the reports. I'm sorry, it was a little messy, but I'm ready to hear any question. Yes, just one last point if we have time. I don't have much to show regarding the next version. What will be the next, the really next version? What I want to improve is the display through JavaScript. For example, if you have this basic polyline, okay. This is the way I draw polygons. And with a nice script that I got through a ChatGPT, by the way, you can easily get smooth polyline. So I think a lot can be improved in the graph through JavaScript when it goes through a web area. The kind of thing. Also, at one moment, there was a question about a web admin. I think there was a pre-version of the component was shown, and we are currently working to implement a web admin. and you have a list of logs, and in this list of logs, which are available through a web access, there is already some testing of the implementation of the component inside one of these log recorder. So there is a beta allowing to use the almost current code to be able through the web to create reports, download the reports, delete existing files, update the component which is convenient, etc., etc. Okay, I think that's all from me. If you have question, I didn't check the chat during the presentation.
Yeah.
Maybe I will let Brent make a summary of them.
Yeah, there's one question or a feature request. Could the method schedule reports server screen in the 4D info report component be enhanced to include the ability to automatically delete each report once it has been successfully imported?
Yes, this is already implemented, and one of the new parts, I think that was, by the way, maybe in the something I've shown. Next version. There is already now a new worker, because currently with the V471, it's the same main process which continues past the existing number of reports and delete only 10 by 10 the overall number of reports beyond the limit you have set. So can try to get access. I think there was one of the capture of it. I'm sorry, I don't find what I've opened recently. I'm using really because I don't have a camera working on my main PC, so that's fine. I'm using yes, I think I will go from there. There is one of the process, I think, which is listed.
Well, we know that it's coming anyways.
Yes, yes.
Anybody have any other questions for Tomas? Before we say thank you so much for your in-depth presentation there. Your component has been very useful over the years. I know that at the museum, it's helped us to troubleshoot many an issue one way or another, especially when we were running a 4D server on Mac. It always seemed like there was some adventuresome memory issues. And this always allowed us to have a better idea of what was going on with the memory. All right. Anybody
Okay, I would stop sharing my screen.
There's any other questions? Now is a good time.
Yes, what I suggest is that you send me direct mail with your question. So my mail is thomas.schlumberger@4d.com. And please, any question, I will check them and respond. Any good ideas will be implemented when possible. For example, I can currently modify the frequency of the reports. At any time, every minute, I check if there is a new frequency to apply. So.
All right. Yeah, if you could, Tomas, put the your email in the chat window just so that
Yes, right now. Okay.
there's no mistake as to what the email is. Well, thank you. No, it's feel like it's been some time coming to have you show off your component. Like we said, it's been very useful to us, and it's a super easy thing to pop into any 4D application to just keep an eye on what's happening while you're away from the server. Otherwise, I want to say again, thank you to everyone at 4D and everybody who participates in these meetings, and gives demos and just tells us what's going on in the community. So feedback is always appreciated, and so is support via Patreon. Otherwise, I'm just going to say thanks so much. Thanks again to Tomas, and we'll see you next time.
Okay,
Thank you, Brent.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Tomas.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't add my email to the chat currently.